Welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the place where you can learn how to create a dental practice and a business life that you love. Listen in with Dr. David Moffet as he interviews successful entrepreneurs and successful business people and successful dentists as they share their business successes, their stories, and their breakthrough ideas. Sharing pearls of wisdom that you can take back to your practice and implement immediately so that you can have that great practice with more patients, higher profits, and less stress. This is the podcast where great dental practices meet with successful business processes. Thanks for tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the podcast where thought leaders, industry experts, and thriving practice owners reveal their very best tips, tools, and strategies that will help you to grow your dental practice faster. Now, here's your host, Dr. David Moffet.
Hey everybody, and welcome to today's podcast interview. I'm Dr. David Moffet. This is the Ultimate Dental Podcast, and today I'm stepping outside of dentistry and I'm interviewing Paul Wright, who used to be a physiotherapist. He's based in Swansea, north of Sydney, a little bit short of Newcastle. And Paul and I have crossed paths in non-dental events and meetings over the last few years, but I thought he'd be an ideal guest for dentists to hear how to build a successful physiotherapy business and what he did to help physiotherapists to improve their business, because really that's what dentists need in building a better dental business. So, Paul Wright, welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast. How are you?
Mate, I'm excited to be here. I've been a fan of your work for a long time, so here I am mixing with the dentists. And as you said, you and we'll talk about it today, you can replace the word dentist with physio, chiro, osteo, podiatry, optometry. It doesn't matter what health profession you're in. We've all got the same baggage. We all carry the same scars from our uni. So we'll talk about that in general terms today, which I know you know, but some people don't. Take a while to get the hang of it.
Well, it's funny. When I wrote my book, people said, you just change out the word dentist and put in lawyer, carpet seller, anything. Customer service is customer service, and business growth is business growth.
Yep.
Paul, tell me, your brand is Practiceology. Tell me the story behind Practiceology and how you came to start Practiceology.
Well, as you said, I was originally a physio, but before that, David, my original qualification was a phys ed teacher. So I grew up in a small country town, Canamble, out west New South Wales. There's actually no physios, chiros. There's a dentist and there's some doctors occasionally. And what does a young kid do that likes sport when he's a young kid out in the bush? He decides to be a PE teacher. So I go to Newcastle College in those days to become a phys ed teacher. Had a great time. Like, we had sessions in the morning on how to play tennis, and the afternoon was cricket. So it was great fun. But I think my entrepreneurial streak might have been there early days, and I came across a physio at a party. I didn't know what a physio was. And I said, what do you do? Should I help people with injuries and management? And I said, anatomy, physiology, like that. So I ended up applying to study physio at Sydney Uni. I got accepted. And then before you knew it, I was a physio. 4 years later, I was a physio. But then the entrepreneurial streak was there, and I started opening practices. I ended up with 6 practices, 5 in Sydney, 1 in Newcastle. And I think at that stage, my claim to fame, mate, was not being there. I'd read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber very early, fortunately, and got the idea of working on my business, not in my business, which led me to have the clinics that I had. And then over that time, I sold them, because I was getting more interest and more excitement out of helping other health business owners do what I did, which is earn more, work less, and enjoy their lives. Because I just see too many health business owners caught in the trap of owning a business and looking back at their life and thinking, gee, I didn't sign up for this when I went to uni. And they wake up 20 years later and their life's gone. I didn't want that to happen to anyone else. So that's sort of what I did. So I created Practiceology, which is the business mentor program, and we run now.
So how long have you been doing Practiceology?
The business mentor, health business mentoring program, probably over a decade now. It must be more, actually. 15 years. But before that, I had the practices for 15 plus years. And over that time, mate, as you know, you see a lot of things. And as you see lots and lots of practices, and they all make the same mistakes, whether it's physio, chiro, dentist, they all do the same thing. So
tell me, let's have a look at the mistakes that your clients are making when they come to you. What are the mistakes you're seeing? And, what shall we say the top 7?
Well, I got 1,000, but okay, let's go through some of the ones we see in our business. And as I said, you can transfer the word physio, chiro, osteo to dentistry. But one of the biggest mistakes we see from business owners, the health business owners, they fail to understand the true role of their business. So you think about, as a health professional, why did you go into your profession? Why did you choose to be a dentist? And some people have different reasons. I'll say because I wanted to help people, or I liked the idea of it. But maybe I was fortunate. The role of a business for me is to give you more life. That's the mistake that they make. They don't understand that going into a business, they've now got to do all the work plus everything else. So think about your case. Why did you join your business? Well, I'll ask you, David. Why did you become a dentist? Like, why did you decide to be a dentist?
Well, I was just told, Paul, that I was smart, and so I should pursue a career in either medicine, veterinary science, or dentistry. And I ruled out veterinary science because, at least in dentistry and medicine, the patient can tell you what's wrong with them. Yeah. And maybe that was an error, because the patient can't tell you whether the medication's working or not if you're a vet. But I wasn't smart enough to be a doctor, so dentistry, as most dental undergraduates are, they're people who weren't smart enough to be doctors, so they ended up in dentistry. There was less people in dentistry who actually wanted to be dentists. And after 2 years of dentistry, I actually had achieved acceptance into medicine. I just kept studying hard, and I thought, well, look, I've got 3 years to go to be a dentist, or I can go back and do 5 more years of medicine plus a couple of years of internship. And I went to a school where nobody was smart, and so all those guys already were out earning money, and here's me at 20 and I'm not earning anything. And I thought, 3 years or 7 years, what am I going to take? I'm taking the 3 years. I just want to get out and go, become a dentist and start making money, pay off my debts, and maybe get into my own business.
But you look, David, at the reasons why, and the people listening today, you look at what drove them. And usually you start your own business, you might want to make your own decisions. You don't want to be told what to do. You want to work for yourself. All this autonomy. But as we know, does that really happen? Because what happens in most cases, the dentist, for example, is now not only seeing all the patients, but they're doing all the work to run the business as well. They're doing the recruitment, the marketing. And that's the classic entrepreneurial myth that most health professionals get sucked into. So I think you've got to work out, and I think maybe I was lucky. When I started my businesses, I think early I wasn't quite aware of what I was doing, and I just wanted to be a physio. But then over time, I realised I can leverage this business to give me more life. Now, I've got 4 daughters, they're grown up now, but I was able to spend so much time with them when they were little because the business was on my terms. I wasn't there very much. So I'm challenging you guys to think, does your business serve you, or are you a servant of it? And I think that's one of the big things we get to. And one thing that might be worth you guys doing is we do a thing in Practiceology called the Freedom Score. And the Freedom Score is simply, on an average week, how many hours per week do you need to spend treating patients? So how many hours per week are you face-to-face or with the hands on the tools? How many hours per week? And we call that your Freedom Score. And when I talk to owners of practices, if they own a practice and they've got their Freedom Score is 40, so they're doing 40 consulting hours a week, I'm going to show you a tired, burnt out practice owner because they're doing all the consulting plus they're doing everything else on top of that. So I try and my Freedom Score was 0. So I got to 0. I got to the point where I never wanted to see a patient again. And I knew I was successful when I wasn't doing that. But that's not why most of us don't think that's a successful business. But to me, it was. my point to you guys, you can decide this. You went into business to decide to have a life, and the business is going to serve you, and that's what this is about. And you can choose whatever model you like to run it. I've got an osteopath in our program at the moment. He runs what we call the Mr. X model. He still likes seeing his patients, so he does 20 odd hours a week face to face. But after that, he shuts the clinic. He charges high fees, doesn't take credit cards, cash only, doesn't do any of this health fund stuff. And somebody will turn up to his practice and there's a sign on the door that says, surf's up, gone surfing. His patients know that surf's up, he's gone surfing. They just accept it. But he's doing business on his terms. And if you want to be a client of his, that's what you do. My point is you can run whatever business you want to run, but don't be a slave to it. Have some discipline and know what you're doing in your business. I think that's the big challenge, I think, is understanding what the real role of your business is. Mine was to give me more life. It still is. Success to me is an empty diary, Dave. Success to me is an empty diary. Freedom to do what I want, when I want, where I want.
Well, I think Michael Gerber, as you mentioned, defined a successful business as one where the business keeps generating an income when you're not in it. Yeah. Otherwise, you're really just bought yourself an expensive job.
Yeah. And that's Gerber talks about the entrepreneurial seizure. I think you must have had it. I know I had it. That he talks about the seizure when you go from realizing, hang on, I'm doing this for someone else. I should just do it for myself. So you decide to open a business that does it. Gerber will say that's the biggest mistake you'll make because you're then going to go into this business doing the technical work as well as running the show. So in his world, he'd be better off if I was running a dental practice. Because I can't do the dental work, I've got to get dentists in to do it, which means I can work on the business, which is sometimes the worst people to run the businesses are the people that actually can do the work. That's a Gerberism.
Paul, in dentistry, and it's pretty universal across the English-speaking world, I'll use American statistics, 95% of dentists reaching the age of 65 in their own practice can't afford to retire because they haven't earned enough or saved enough to hang up their drill and walk away. The money they make drilling teeth can't be replaced by non-dental income producing assets. And wow. So that's a tragedy to think that 40 years of being in business and you haven't made yourself inconsequential to the income that business is generating. Is it like that in physio?
Well, yeah, very much so. But there's, especially with increasing wages and other things, because they don't know how to run their business. What I thought when you said that, David, there's a concept that I talk about, and I think Dan Kenny talked about it, the concept of a current bank business versus a future bank business. So this Mr. X guy that's seeing patients, that might be some dentists out there, they're running a business that is current bank. They're generating good money now, but because it's all about them, there's not a big sellout. There's not a big paycheck when you sell it because it's their practice. That's okay, as long as you understand the model. So you're investing with this money, this current bank money. You've got your shares, you've got property. You're investing in things with your current business, with current money, because you know you're not going to get a massive payout when you sell it. So understanding what business model you're running is all okay. I mean, I'm in a similar business now. The business I'm running is a current bank business. It's largely me. But I might get some trailing income from some of our programs. But as long as I'm investing well with the money I'm getting, I'm hearing from what you're saying, David, the guys aren't running businesses well enough to have enough current bank money to even invest or to build enough long-term wealth. That's kind of what I'm hearing, which is sad if that's the case.
Yeah, what I see out there, Paul, is that dentists spend too much along the way. They enjoy the fruits of what they're doing along the way, but when it's time to hang up their drill, they have to sell their practice for not much, sell their big home and downsize or relocate to something smaller, and then use that home sale as their retirement asset. Whereas it would really be nice to be able to retire into the home and not have to relocate. Only you have to relocate if the home becomes too big to clean.
Yeah. Well, I'm hearing then that that's the case. They've got problems with their current business model. They're either spending too much now, which might be the case, which sometimes is the case, or they just haven't got their business in order enough to make enough money to put enough away for that future term. But that's
Well, I
scary.
always told dentists that they get paid. Dentist practice owners get paid three ways, as you and I have already discussed. They get paid for doing the dentistry, and they should pay themselves as if they're an associate in their own practice, and take a percentage, and take it out first, and use that for their private expenses, for their retirement investment, sending their kids to school, private holidays, things like that. Then they should pay themselves for the administrative roles they perform, because if they're not doing them, somebody else would be coming in and doing them, so they should be giving themselves a salary for that, or an income for that. And then thirdly, they forget that if they've put $1 million into buying a dental practice or setting up a dental practice, they should be getting a dividend on that $1 million, just like if they bought $1 million property or they paid $1 million in the stock market. And they're not doing that either. And I can remember after retirement doing some dental association work, and the secretary of the dental association just said, or the CEO, or whatever he was called, he said, dentists just do that on their Sundays. And I said, well, why should they? Why should they do it on their Sundays? Why shouldn't they get a weekend like everybody else? And he goes, I never thought of it like that. I said, well, stop selling that. Stop selling that model, because it's a flawed model. But a lot of dentists don't realise,
that comes back to the whole mistake. The business's job is to serve you, and if it's not serving you, and you're not making enough money to do what you want to do, you're better off working for someone else, which is okay as well. There's a lot of people out there who just prefer to go to work and go home and not think about it. That there's a price to be paid for business ownership, and the price is it's always in your head. We're always thinking about what things we could do, because I can tell you firsthand that the list of things you could do as a business owner is never ending. You can nick off 1,000 things, but there's still 1,000 left. And you have that with you all the time when you own a business. If you don't want that, get a job, sell it, close it, get a job working for someone else, and just turn up at 9 o'clock, go home at 4 o'clock or whatever, and just forget about it. That's
Do you think you could have done that, Paul?
Well,
you mentioned that you were very entrepreneurial, and I think it even crossed my mind this morning that I don't play well as an employee.
I don't. Funny you say that, because when I received the letter from Sydney Uni to go and do the physio, I accepted as a mature age student, and I remember sitting on Newcastle Beach. I was just about to finish my phys ed qualification, so I would have been a trained PE teacher. I still finished it, but I would have gone into the teaching gig. I'm sitting on Newcastle Beach, and the letter arrived that I was accepted as Sydney Uni. It's those turning points in your life. Do I take it or not? And I would have liked PE teaching. I'd get there at 9 o'clock, leave at 3, have my feet up on the chair, throw some footballs around. Like, that would have been an easy gig, long holidays. But as you say, I think the reason I decided to go to physio, I thought it was then because I wanted to be a physio, but I think looking back on it, I thought there was the idea I could work for myself and I had some autonomy. I don't think I really knew it then, but I think I had an entrepreneurial pathway that was leading me towards physio, so I could own my own business, which then led me to where I'm at the moment. I'm like you, I don't play well with others. I go into businesses when I was employed before I was usually sacked because I'd shoot my mouth off or say that just doesn't make any sense. I think I was chronically unemployable very early.
Yeah, it's difficult. Tell me, walk us through some of the key components that make a successful physiotherapy practice system. What can a patient at a physiotherapy practice recognise that says, oh, I'm in the right place, these guys know what they're doing, as opposed to this guy has no idea what he's doing. What are the differences?
Well, as I said, you can substitute physio with dentistry and anything else, but the same in any business. What are the things that indicate a successful business? Invariably, David, they are system related. There is a system and a process for pretty much everything inside the business. And Our best clients typically come in with not much of an idea, and then we put all the systems in for them. The reason why that's the case is because systems deliver consistency of outcome or consistency of process. The biggest thing that turns a client or a patient off is different things happening all the time and no routine to it, not knowing what they're going to get, what they're going to expect. So the best businesses have the best systems in them. And this also leads into recruitment, because when available labour is tight, which it has been in allied health for a long time, and I imagine it's much the same in dentistry. I'll talk about that in a second, but one of the key drivers of a successful business is available labour supply. And if you haven't got available labour supply, you've got to leverage ordinary people with great systems to make them appear better than they are, because it's hard to find superstars. We found it in physio, at Chiro Osteo. The superstars will probably start their own practice pretty quickly. So that top end's gone. So you've got to leverage them with great systems. That comes back, David, consistency, how the phone's answered, which you do really well, how the booking's done, all the little things that add up that make the experience that is repeatable, so every patient knows what they're going to get every time. That's probably the biggest key to success. The Gerberism that I like, and I still live by it, your job as a business owner is to remove discretion at the operating level of your business. Remove discretion at the operating level of your business, which means things happen consistently and routinely, regardless of who does it in your practice. And the more of that you can get, the better business you will have. Give an example. I'll just pull a dentistry example. Maybe when the person goes to the dentist and they're suitable for orthodontics, there's a process for that. So whether you do it, David, or the new dentist Brian does it, you follow the same protocol. So then you can step away. Brian's still going to do what you would have done pretty much the same way. So you can go to the beach and do whatever you want to do, because you know Brian's got it handled because he's following the system. If we leave it to Brian's own decision, if he hasn't been trained well, he could do it any certain way. No, you don't need orthodontics, you just need this, or whatever they're going to say. You've added discretion into the argument, and that's difficult when you're trying to remove yourself from the business. So systems, remove discretion, give you freedom. How's that?
Yeah. Systems are so important, and understanding processes. And you mentioned phones and you mentioned scheduling. And I imagine physiotherapy is similar to dentistry in that my injury's feeling okay, why do I need to come back and finish my course of treatment? Is something that physiotherapy patients probably toss up from time to time, as opposed to, well, the reason you need to come back is because it's a process, and if we don't complete the process, like taking the antibiotics, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel good after 2. I haven't taken the whole course.
Yeah.
How do you? There's a number of things I feel like I'm running things that I want to cover. How do we gain that consistency in the non-clinical people that we employ, to make sure that they understand that this is ultimately, we're talking about our patients' health, and if they don't get their health fixed, the problem fixed, it comes back to bite, even though it may not be painful like dentistry, like a soft tissue injury. We still need to complete that course of treatment for the best result. How do you it's selling the invisible sometimes. How do we do that? How do you do that in physio?
Okay. Well, can I go back to something you said, because it's you guys might not know this. We as allied health, physio, chiro, podiatry, we hold dentists up into a very, very high esteem in terms of your ability, David, to get the patient to come back every 6 months to 12 months. Our profession, I remember talking to physios, chiros, and I always mention dentists have got it nailed, because you just know you've got to go back to the dentist every 6 months and get your checkup. So why don't we do the same for physio chiro? Because physios chiro are so caught up on the concern about over servicing. Heaven forbid they should ring up a patient 6 months after they've had their knee fixed to book them back in for a checkup. So you guys might not be aware of this, but you are the gold standard. You've encouraged your database to know every 6 months I've got to have a checkup. I'm due for one now, and I'm going to book it because I know it's been 6 months. I've never seen a study on that, David. I've never seen a research article to prove that I need to do that. I just believe it because you guys have made me believe it. So hats off to you guys for that for a start, because it's genius. That being said, how do you get your non-clinical staff to follow systems? Mate, I learnt this years ago. You can't train people and you can't measure people. All you can measure are processes. So all you can control and measure are processes. So if there is in your business a set of processes, a set of steps that must happen for every new patient, this happens, then this happens, 6 months later they get this, you can control that, you can measure it, you can monitor it, and if it doesn't happen, then someone's accountable for it not happening. So you can measure and control that, but you can't control the people that do that because they're off with the fairies. All you can control are the steps, making sure you've got a measurement in place that you knew the step was done or not, and then there's a consequence if it isn't done. That's all you can control. I think it was Ken Blanchard's. The new 1 Minute Manager book has come out, and it's all about managing processes. You can't manage people. All you can manage are processes. So what I suggest you do, look at what you do, look at the gold standard, set up the processes, and then set about making sure that's non-negotiable. And the key to this whole thing, gradually increase the number of non-negotiable steps in your business. Give an example. In allied health, I believe, and all our patients are indoctrinated, or our clients are in this. Every new patient that comes to one of our clinics or our clients' clinics, they all get a written treatment plan. The therapist sits there with the patient and says, David, you've got this, you're here today because you've got that run coming up, and if you don't make the run, you're the only one in your family not running. So it's important for you. I get that. We'll go through what we found. We'll go through the findings, and we'll say, David, for you to get on that run and be with your family and have a great time, you need to see me 3 times a week for the next 2 weeks. We'll get you into that run, no problems. I've done it 1,000 times. How's that sound? And that's a conversation. We call it a critical conversion conversation that must happen exactly every time. That's how you get consistency. Now, if you've got a dentist who's in your practice who's saying, "Oh, give us a call in 6 months, let us know how you're going," that's just rubbish. So that's shame on you for not fixing it. But you control the processes, control the systems, and gradually increase the number of non-negotiables. How's that? How's that?
I think that's gold, and you're right, because there's so many businesses out there, not just in health. A friend of mine once told me about he wanted some trees pruned on his property so he could see his view. And the guy trimmed the trees, but he didn't make an appointment to come back in 6 months' time and trim them again.
Yep.
Because trees are going to grow, and so he's relying. He's relying on the person saying, "Oh, gee, those trees are starting to block my view," as opposed to preventing. And it's even hairdressers do it with their clients. If you don't book in 6 weeks' time, it's going to be 8 weeks, and your hair's going to look ratty for 2 weeks because you might not be able to get you in.
Yep.
And there's some dental practices that are so busy that when the hygienist is away, the next available appointment is 6 months, is the one that you're going to have 6 months after that. But the damage, Paul, and this is the thing that mechanical services do really well, like your car service, your air conditioning service. Why wait until your air conditioning blows up or your car blows up and say, "Oh, maybe I should have taken my car for a service. Maybe I should have got the guy come around and change my filters." Let's get it checked. And so that in dentistry, it's not that the patients need to come every 6 months. They need to come back because we're going to check the bone loss, we're going to check the mobility, we're going to check the pocketing, we're going to check the recession, we're going to check the abrasion, we're going to check the margins on that filling. We've found 6 different things that we can rotate through to say, I've got to come back because of, and it's in the notes so that when they ring to cancel, just let me bring up Dr. Moffet's notes and see what he wrote. So about this appointment that you're trying to cancel. So straight away, it's not a discussion between the receptionist and the patient. It's a discussion between the patient and Dr. Moffet's notes.
And the admin and the admin, as you know, the admin is a representative of the patient who's got a moral obligation to make sure that patient is booked in, because otherwise they'll get this problem, which will lead to this problem, and you've got to make sure that doesn't happen. We can't let that happen, David, because I've seen it. So that's again, I'm interested. So for you guys, are you telling me your dentists aren't doing that? They're not rebooking and explaining the consequence of not rebooking? Is that what you're telling me? Because that staggers me.
It's just exactly. They're selling the program, not selling the reason. Not so much the reason, but the benefit. If you come every 6 months, just a simple fact, Paul. If you go to the dentist and have your teeth cleaned once a year, and you took all that junk that you took out and you put it in a jar, and then you came back 6 months later, and then 6 months after that, and you put those 2 6-month jars beside the 1 year jar, there'd be more stuff in the 1 year jar. It's like a snowball going down a hill. It builds on itself. And so you say, well, do you want more of that stuff or less of that stuff? And then you say, what do you think of that? They go, it's gross. And you say, well, would you like it on a cracker and would you eat it? Because it's just come out of your mouth. Why don't we put it back in your mouth? And they go, oh. So we've got to gross it up a bit. So, but a lot of dentists don't like to offend. I don't want to scare the patient because maybe they won't like me.
One of my sales mentors, Steve Jensen, good friend of mine, Steve talks about always have a horror story. So horror stories it's a part. And let me help you with this too. We are talking sales here today. This is a sales conversation, but you've got to get your head around what sales is. Sales is simply a transfer of enthusiasm. That's all selling is. And we've learned that years ago. It's my enthusiasm for helping you get back to your run that I'm sharing with you. And I've got an obligation to help you get that. Now, health professionals have all this money baggage about that. Well, they can't afford it. All this rubbish, which that's nothing to do with you. I hope you've had the discussion with your clients, David. The patient's finances has nothing to do with you. All you are giving is your professional opinion. Based on what I've seen, David, you need 3 times a week for the next 2 weeks, which will get you the biggest chance of making that run. How does that sound? That's all you've paid me for. I'm not in charge of your money. I'm not your financial planner. I'm just going to tell you what's giving you the best outcome. So if you can get that right, the rest of it is just making sure you get the conversation right. And I talked about the horror story, the person who comes in and they are worried about their migraine not getting better. Well, that's a concern because I had a guy in last week. He started out like you. His migraine was getting worse and worse. He's now lying on a lounge in his parents' apartment, darkened room, 7 days a week. Like, there's some, and you've all got horror stories. You've got a few descendants today. This is, we had a client that did this and he did this, and as a result, this happened. I don't want that to happen to you. That's a part of the conversation process. And if you're worried about David or me, those people out there worrying, these guys are a bit salesy. I interviewed a clinical psychiatrist once who was a master wordsmith, a master manipulator. He kind of talked to himself as a master manipulator. And I remember saying to him, hey, mate, is this ever manipulation? Do you ever feel like you're manipulating people into doing what you want them to do? And his answer, I've never forgotten it. He said, Paul, it's only manipulation if it's in your best interest and not theirs. It's only manipulation if it's in your best interest and not theirs. I would like to think every dentist out there that's having a conversation with a patient about rebooking, about their build-up in their teeth, about their pockets, whatever, you need to see this patient because it's in their best interest. If you're doing that, and you have an ethical obligation to make sure they come back. Otherwise, you've done them a disservice. How's that?
Exactly right, Paul. If you go to a great restaurant, you tell your friends. If you go to see a good movie, you need to go and see this movie. It's exactly the same. If you've got something that you believe is going to benefit your patients, the people that you sell to, then it's your obligation to make sure that they end up getting that product or service, because their life will be worse if they don't. And in the thing in dentistry is it just doesn't fix itself. It just keeps going on and on and on.
Yeah.
You can't rest a toothache.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be fixed. You can rest a sore muscle, I guess, but is it going to be better because it's had physiotherapy treatment? Of course it is.
Yeah.
Is it going to, is the physiotherapist going to tell you exactly how much, when to do the heat packs, when to do the cold packs between visits?
Yeah.
Of course they are.
I know you're interviewing me, but I want to ask you a question. What percentage of dentists sell product, like say orthodontics? What percentage of dentists will have an orthodontic range or a product that they sell in their practice?
Oh, I can't tell you the percent, Paul, but what I can tell you is advice that I got given when I bought my practice back in 1987.
Yep.
And I said to the chap selling, I said, have you got nitrous oxide? And he said, no, I don't. He said, but let me tell you this, you can't sell what you don't have. And so what I find with my clients is that if they don't have the education to be able to do the orthodontics, they don't sell the orthodontics. If they don't have the education to understand that a mouthguard made by a commercial laboratory is better for their footballing patients than one that they've made out the back with their own hands, that's, ethically they're not giving their patient, the footballing patient, the best option. I had a client who was making mouthguards that were so bad they were falling out in the patient, in the footballer's mouth. Like, how useless is that? That's not going to protect them if somebody hits them in the mouth with a knee or a torso. Ridiculous. But that, coming back to treatment, if you don't understand about sleep apnea and loss of vertical dimension, and you think somebody's grinding their teeth because they have stress in their life, and so you give them a splint that prevents them from wearing their teeth down, you have given them a Band-Aid that doesn't address the reason why they are grinding their teeth. And stress is not the answer, because you would know this, Paul, having been a physiotherapist. Little kids grind their teeth. All right? Now, little kids, 6-year-olds, grind their teeth so loud. Now, what have they got to be stressful about? They haven't got wives, they haven't got bosses, they haven't got mortgages. There's no stress in their life except physiological stress, airways. They can't breathe.
The reason for my question, David, is because maybe I'm being disillusioned by what you're telling me, because I've always held dentists, podiatrists, optometrists up onto the highest echelon of allied health. So I say in my lectures over this, if I could have my time again, I'd be a dentist, optometrist, or podiatrist, because in my mind, they all have a product range. They have a product that they can sell, because otherwise, one of the major problems with physio, chiro, osteo, the general rank and file allied health like that, they're trading time for dollars. They consult time. Dentists, well, there's an orthodontic range, brilliant. Podiatrist, there's orthotics. Optometrists, we've got eyewear. That's brilliant. You've got a product range that goes along and parallel with your consultations. I'm staggered, David. I'm now concerned I'm going to have to change my lecture. I hope you guys are all selling product, because otherwise you're trading time for dollars.
It's very much time for dollars. There's very little product sold on top. Unlike veterinary products, you need this special dog food. You need this, even though Pet Barn came in and got the vets on those sort of things. But it is interesting as to what people only sell what they know. Yeah. Professionally, Paul, over the last 7 or 8 years, I've been through quite a lot of trauma trying to work out what was wrong with my eyes. I said my two eyes weren't working together. I felt like when I was looking in the distance, I was getting different depths. Finally, I went to an optometrist, not a somebody who was working for an optical dispenser, but I went to a private optometrist. He said, it looks like you've got a floater in your eye. Sent me to a retinal surgeon. He said, you've got a floater in your eye. He said, how long's it been going? I said, about 12 months. He said, usually I don't like to operate until it's 18 months. I said, why? He said, it's just how I operate. I said, let me tell you this. If you don't operate and get this thing out now, I said, the only thing for certain in 6 months' time is that I'm going to hate you more than I hate you now for making this decision. He said, all right. I said, how big is it, by the way, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the Titanic? He said, it's 9.5. I said, so let's get this darn thing out. Then once that I got that out, $4,000 worth of different glasses later, long distance, short distance, sunglasses, whatever, I could see undulations in golf greens that I hadn't seen for 20 years. I go, geez, look at this detail in this golf green. But then because you get the floater out, you need cataract surgery. So you got to have cataract surgery. So finally, I don't top putts anymore because I just couldn't work out where the end of the putter was beneath me.
So our bottom line is as we talked about, you've got to have a product range. Like we sell in physio world, there'll be Swiss balls, there'll be orthotics, there'll be braces, there'll be things, allied services that go along with it. I mean, the podiatrists and optoms are the gold standard because I know a podiatrist, David, you'll love this, who doesn't talk in terms of dollars and cents. He won't talk about how much money something's worth. He'll say it's all based on how many pairs of orthotics that is. So we're going on holidays for 6 weeks. It only cost me 20 pairs. His car only cost him 50 pairs. Everything's about pairs of orthotics. It's not about the actual dollar value, which is just brilliant. So maybe you guys should be talking about how many sets of braces you've undone, whatever you've done. But trading time for dollars it's a difficult way to do business. But if you are doing that, just at least make sure your prices are high enough that you're getting enough profit in your business that you can start putting money away, as we talked about earlier. Make sure your price, and if you say, "Well, my people won't pay that," well, then you've got to find a better audience or create a better marketing system because there's a problem in your business. Anyway, don't start me.
It's interesting you say that, Paul, because you help physiotherapists and allied health people to improve their business. And I guess you get this question as I get it in mind. How much does it cost me to have you help me grow my practice? And I say, well, it's not a cost. It's an investment. If you give me $5 and in return I give you 25 back, if you went down to Crown and you found a machine that every time you put $5 in, it gave you $25 back, how long would you be playing that machine? Until they worked out that you were onto something. You'd be there all the time. That's what I'm giving you. My advice is an investment.
Yeah, and we see it all the time. The other thing I like, and I've learned this the hard way over the years, successful people spend money to save time. So we've got clients that join our program and they're okay business, but they just don't know what they don't know. And then you give them a few pointers, look at their money, look at their diaries, give them the 20 years of experience you've got in a couple of hours, and they're on the path. But it would have taken them years to do that on their own. So successful people spend money to save time. Usually it's in mentoring. It's whatever is going to give you an advantage that would have taken you too long to find yourself. That's what you and I have been doing for a long time, Dave.
Even home maintenance, Paul.
Home maintenance. I put that on Helen. I said, no, I went, this whole stage of how much your time's worth. She'll say to me, Paul, you got to go out and mow the lawn. Oh, darn, it's below my hourly rate. It's not worth my time to do that. She said, but no one else is coming to do it. Get off your ass and do it. So anyway, but successful people spend money to save time.
When I lived in Sydney, I had my front was a nature strip, and then from the fence to the house was driveway and garden because it sloped. Yep. And so I was going overseas for 6 weeks, and I said to the guy mowing my neighbour's lawn, I said, mate, I'm going overseas for 6 weeks. How much would it cost for you to mow my lawn every week while I'm away? And he said, $20. So we're talking 25 years ago. He said, $20. I said, next question, I said, how much would it cost for you to mow it while I'm here?
I hope you just paid it.
Yeah, I did. I said, like sold. I never mowed that front lawn ever again. And he knew that I'd done the work on the lawn, like with fertilising and whatever. He said, "This is the best nature strip in the Ku-ring-gai Shire." He used to photograph it and send it to Instagram. I said, "There you go." And I didn't care what the guy over the road was paying his bloke because I was getting the service and saving myself some time.
Well, time is our own limited resource. And that's why, as well, we've been doing a lot of work in the AI space. So we're doing a lot of work AI for health professionals, just because there's so many time-saving things in there. I did a session yesterday in our AI Black Belt program. I showed the group how to get 28 really good social media video posts, a book written, and a stack of social media things in 15 minutes. And it was just freakish, David, what you can do when you get into this. And that's kind of what I'm excited about at the moment, is this whole AI and the ability of that to save us time. And it's got some massive opportunities for us, as I think you know already.
Paul, I've been looking at AI for that purpose. Sometimes it's like, here's my blank piece of paper, where do I start?
Yeah.
And half an hour later, you've still got a blank piece of paper in front of you. With ChatGPT, it's just give it the questions that you want, and in microseconds, it gives you an answer. And if you don't like that answer, you just say, well, here's how I talk. Can you do it, rewrite it? Can you give me another version? Foof, done.
Yeah.
And very, 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 very good. And it's mostly up to date. I think it's getting better. I think when it came out a year ago, it was a little bit behind in some of its thinking, because you know from Dan Kennedy, he said, the way to own a successful business is to just work out what everybody else is doing and do the opposite.
Yeah.
because they're getting it wrong most of the time. But I think with AI, and ChatGPT, certainly shortening that process. And I don't think it's doing anybody at your place out of a job, because it's helping you actually create more jobs within your organisation.
To say you're not going to be replaced by AI, you'll be replaced by people using AI. So you're going to be. It's coming anyway. That we've seen it. I mean, there's, what was it, 1 million users in 5 days? We talked about the other night when you did my presentation with me. Was just the speed at which it's been taken up, and the usage you're describing are just, they're 1% of what it can do. Like we've got, like what I showed the group yesterday with the video creation. We've got really good AI admin. So at the moment, they are just augmenting your current admin team, but saving you from having lots of extra staff and doing a really, really good job. That's already here. And I said, it's just getting better and better. There's a million things that are coming. Don't keep your head in the sand. You've got to be aware of it. And I've put the last 18 months into AI, same reason, because it's, you guys haven't got time to learn it all. So I've been heavily invested in it. So successful people spend money to save time, and they get the rail run into the inside. So that's what we've been playing with, because it's just so cool.
Paul, I've been looking at, thanks for allowing me to look at your Black Belt AI program, and it really has been a game changer in terms of just shortening the learning curve.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than buying new equipment. I don't know if it's the same in physio, but when they say, well, the only problem with this is it's got a really steep learning curve. Like, who wants to buy that stuff? But what you've done is you've actually step by step cut down the learning curve to bite-sized chunks that anybody can do. Any Luddite. Didn't you call yourself a Luddite?
Well, I am. I'm not a techie. This is the ironic thing. My 4 daughters are horrified that I'm teaching anyone about AI, because I can hardly use my phone. But what I am good, and I said it in one of the presentations, I'm in these mastermind groups with AI people. They're really sharp, but they're big corporate types and big companies, and they're using it for 50,000 people. So I take that information. I think, well, how can we use it as health business owners? And I'm putting that into the steps of the AI Black Belt, because it's hard for us enough to conceptualize it without then working it out. So I've kind of done the hard yards in that, and that's why it's working at the moment, because it's just got lots of things, and you've got to, once you're embracing it and you understand a bit about it, you can then make decisions. Is this program, do I need this? And I think I said in one of the presentations, the big mistake is people are discovering a tool like ChatGPT and thinking, oh, I could use that. And because all these tools are coming on the market, that's leading them to be overwhelmed. They don't know what to do next, and sometimes they do nothing. And I said it the other day, the correct method is work out what problems have you got in your business, and then think, is there an AI solution for that? Don't do the reverse. Look at your business first and the problems you've got. Let's say it's admin. I'm over admin. When Mary's away, the place falls apart. So look at a solution. There are solutions for that. Then do it in that order. Then at least you don't get overwhelmed by all these things coming in that you don't know about. You're in control of the path. That's my biggest tip with AI. Focus on the problems in your business and then look at if there's an AI solution. Don't just get overwhelmed by the AI solutions that are out there, because there's a million of them.
Well, isn't that the same in treating patients, Paul? Listen to what the patient's telling you is their problem, and then find a solution for their problem, not saying, I've got this massive treatment, let's see if I can make it work to fix what he's telling me.
Yeah, correct. I've just seen so many owners who are just so overwhelmed by everything that's happening with AI because they've just got caught up reading the media, looking at the tools, thinking, wow, but not knowing how to use anything. That's led to the overwhelm that I've seen so far. But come back to your problem. This is the problem. Is there a solution? Invariably there is.
Yeah. Well, I think from what I've seen in AI in the last 12 months and its progression from being so general in terms of overwhelm to now being able to use it specifically for what I've got. And I guess looking at any business, you don't want to say, well, I've got it's like a to-do list, isn't it? The more you've got on your to-do list, the less gets done.
Yeah.
Let's solve one or two problems first, then let's move on solving the next two. Then let's come up with the next two. I think it's great. Tell me, with your Practiceology and the physios and the allied health people who come to you, do you ever see any hopeless cases that you can't help, or is every practice fixable?
Well, there are two drivers of any successful business: available market and available labour. So the two key drivers of any business. Someone comes to me from they've got a practice in the middle of nowhere, and they're having trouble getting therapists. Well, that's not going to go away. We can look at overseas trained people, but you've opened a business where there's not a lot of available labour. So, not saying they're not helpful. You just change the way they structure their business, and you turn them more into a Mr. and Miss X model. You can massage what they do. The ones that I've found that you can't help are the ones that just don't do what you tell them. They don't implement. They just keep doing the same thing and wonder why the result's the same, which you must see in your programs as well. You can help everyone as long as they are accepting of your advice and do something with it. Yeah,
I think the definition of stupidity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Yeah. And if at first you don't succeed, really should do what your coach told you to do in the first place.
You just
and then you'll get.
Yeah, you hear it all. We hear it all the time. Someone opens a practice, and the thing they do, David, they want to do it. I wanted to open a practice. I wanted to be a physio-chiro. I wanted to be a dentist. The harsh reality is the market doesn't care what you want. Your job is to find out what the market wants and needs and give it to them. That's regardless of what you want to do. The market doesn't care what you want to do. I love watching Shark Tank. Hopefully you guys are watching Shark Tank. But I love the Shark Tank ones where the person pitches their product to the sharks, and they'll say, the classic one I use a lot, the guy that had the pads that stick under the arms of men's shirts to stop the sweat getting on the shirts, like an underarm pad was the product. He bowls up in the Shark Tanker and it tells them all about the product, and then they ask him, what are your sales? They always say, what are your sales? Well, I've sold about 2,000 of them. How long are we doing this for? Oh, about 5 years. So you've sold 2,000 in 5 years. And obviously the market was telling him they don't want it. So the market was saying no. The sharks didn't obviously give him a deal. And he walked out and they interviewed him afterwards, and they said, what are you going to do now? I'm going to keep going. I believe in this. See, he's fallen in love with his product. Your job as a practice owner is to fall in love with the market. What's the problem the market has got? I'm not passionate about AI, but I got interested because 1 million people joined in 5 days, and I thought, wow, health professionals are going to need someone to help them use this. So I have got a growing like of it, but it's not a product that I love. It's just that the market needs it. My job is to find what the market needs and fill it. That's all you can do as a business owner. Hope that helps.
Yeah, it's true. Underwater basket weaving is not a big growth industry, is it?
The physio that wants to become the expert in helping elbow pain in one-arm golfers. Well, because I'm an expert in it. Well, that's great, but there's not many one-arm golfers out there. I'm not sure if you'll do any good. But I'm passionate about it. Well, good on you. But it's a passion project. It's not going to make you any money.
Yeah. It doesn't matter whether it's the left or right arm.
You know the ad. There was the ad. It was a Dan Kennedy ad. Secrets of one-arm golfer puts 50 yards on your drive and drops your handicap by 3 strokes. There was a report. It was the biggest selling ad ever because it's just got such an intriguing headline. But anyway, that sold thousands. Anyway, one-arm golfers.
One-arm golfer. Beware the one-arm golfer.
Yeah.
Paul, we could talk for hours. Always good to chat with you after seeing you and our paths cross and then they separate for a while and then they cross again. It's been a pleasure finding out more about Practiceology and seeing the similarities that all health professionals have, and that is focus on your market and find a problem that your market's got, solve that problem, and remember that you're in business to create a life, not in business to perform a task.
It's so true. And look for the opportunities. Look at what AI is presenting for us at the moment, and I think there's value in that for all of us.
So, Paul, what's the link that people watching this podcast can go to? Obviously, it's going to go out to your people as well as to the dental profession who might be interested in saying, "Hey, this guy seems to know what he's talking about in AI, and he's making more sense than the 1 or 2 dentists talking AI at the moment." So they might identify with that, and might be making more sense than a lot of techie people talking AI. How can people get in touch with you and the project?
Well, our main website is mypracticeology.com. So if they go to mypracticeology.com, they can have a chat with me if they're interested in having a chat about it. For the AI Black Belt, it's mypracticeology.com/AI Black Belt, believe it or not. So mypracticeology.com/AI Black Belt. It's an 8-module program. I said to Dave before this, if you use the code DAVID, DAVID, you'll save a couple $100. For the dentists out there, it's just an 8-level program. It's not just for the owners. It's for admin team, practice managers, dental assistants, your whole team. We want them to be AI powered, not just you. And they're all asking for it, especially the younger generation want training in AI. So I thought, okay, let's produce a program for it. So mypracticeology.com/AI Black Belt. Use David as the code. The only thing, there's a couple of sessions that relate. There's a session that I did that the last bit we talked about orthotics. Just replace the word orthotic with orthodontics. Like it's the same principle, just replacing the words. We've got a guest expert on with each session talking about a tool and how to use it. But it's a very cool program, and it's just the feedback has been amazing. So I love what we've done with it. It's a really good program. I hope that's useful for you.
Well, I've certainly had a good look at those lessons, Paul, and I fully concur. It's a game changer in terms of just cutting to the chase and getting ahead of the curve instead of trying to paddle to get to the top of the wave. It's like you've dragged me over the wave really quickly, and I'm now surfing my little tail off to keep ahead of it. So thank you very much for that offer, and
Pleasure.
Thank you to anybody, be you an allied health person who's watching this or a dentist who's watching this. It's a really good program that Paul's done. very simple, short lessons, easy to understand and easy to implement. And I think that you'd be crazy not to have a look at that. So please do that. Paul Wright, thank you. We've nearly run out of time. We have run out of time. Thank you for being a guest on the Ultimate Podcast. I really appreciate your time, Paul.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Or hit me up on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my platform. If you want to chat, just hit me on LinkedIn. Paul Wright, Newcastle, Australia. Love to catch up. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you for tuning in to another inspiring episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you for being part of our dental community and joining us each week on this incredible journey. If you found value in today's episode and you don't want to miss out on future episodes packed with expert insights and actionable strategies, here's how you can stay connected with us. Firstly, hit that subscribe button. Whether you're listening on your favourite podcast platform or watching on our website, subscribing ensures you'll never miss an episode. Secondly, share the love. If you know a fellow dentist or colleague who could benefit from the wisdom and knowledge that we share here, please share our podcast with them. Also, please share the podcast on your socials by simply clicking on the social icons wherever you view or listen to this podcast. Together, we can all do our bit to elevate the dental profession. And finally, stay engaged with us. We love hearing from you. Your questions, comments, and feedback fuel our mission to provide the best content for your professional growth, your personal growth, and for your practice growth. Remember, your journey to creating a dental practice and a business life that you love is our mission, and we're excited to be your trusted guide along the way. Thank you for being a part of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Until next time, keep smiling, keep striving, and keep on tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast.